G'day everyone, welcome back to Empires of Europe. This is Fat Rod, and today we've got the latest update for 1700, which is now live on Steam and Nexus. So this was actually meant to come out a while ago, and it was going to be relatively small, just bringing over the map changes from 1100. But in the end, I just kept finding more and more stuff I could add in, new things to fix and change, and new content to add in. Even since the beta a week ago, there's been a huge number of changes. So this has turned out to be quite a large update, probably, I don't know, second or third largest one I've ever done. So lots to go through. Let's get into it. So we've got a whole bunch of new settlements and also new playable areas. Starting off in Spain, we've now got Ciudad Real. I wanted to fill in this big gap between Toledo and Murcia, so this is a good candidate, with the bound settlements being Almagro and Daimiel. Then moving over into Portugal, so we've now got Faro in southern Portugal. I've rebound Lagos and also added in Almodovar. Moving up into southern France, there's a couple of changes here. We've got Bayonne Castle with Dax as the bound settlement. We've got Angoulême as a new bound settlement for Limoges. Murol Castle. Montpellier is now a town rather than just being a village. And I've added in Millau as one bound settlement and rebound Alès as well. Then moving up into Belgium. So quite a few changes here. I've added in Brussels with a couple of bound settlements. So I've made this Dutch for now. This is because Dutch was meant to be the primary language spoken at the time, despite what has happened since then. So I think this makes sense. It was also the capital of the Spanish Netherlands. So the way I've set this up is we've got Brussels and Heeswijk. My Dutch is not good. Heeswijk Castle as the Spanish Netherlands, and then above that you'll see Utrecht and Groningen are owned by Britain. Reason I've done that is because William III was still the stadholder, even though he was also King of England. So I'm kind of pretending they're allied here. I really didn't want to create a single faction or create a new faction for the Dutch Republic because they would be too small. It's not worth it. So I think this is a good compromise. But this entire area is all now Dutch culture. So that, I guess it kind of makes a Dutch playthrough a lot more feasible. So moving over into Finland now. So this is the first of the updates to the playable area. So the entire peninsula here is now traversable. And you can see there's a whole bunch of settlements, towns, castles, everything. And shout out to Reiko for doing most of the research for this. So I've also got some settlements in Western Russia. You also see I've got Nyenchants here. The reason I've added this in is because the Vic 1860 guys really wanted St. Petersburg. That's too early for 1700. However, there was a Swedish fort here, which is Nyenchants. The prefab's obviously way too big and it's a town. I might change this later, but I kind of got a bit lazy and just wanted to leave it as it was. But that's the reason that is there. So this now means we've got a much more accurate representation of the Swedish Empire with kind of, the Latvian and Finnic territories all owned by Sweden at this time. So that makes them a better representation of their strength at the time. Moving down into southern Russia now. So we've got Sarkel Fortress on the Don River. I think that's the Don River. We've got Derbent Fortress, which is new settlement for the Safavids. And then moving all the way down into Arabia, we've now got Mecca with Jeddah and Taif as the bound settlements. Last two things. Athens is now a town and has Megara as a new bound settlement. And Tehran is now also a town as well. So better representations for the time, as these were both now, large cities and capitals. The last thing to mention about the map updates is the broken looted village icons are now fixed. So looking at this example here of someone raiding and after a village is raided, you will see the proper smoke coming out. So that was a big change I made to 1100 last time. It has needed to be fixed for a while, but yeah, all good now. So we now have a new Finnic culture to go along with our new playable area in Finland. I'll just skip through the creation here, but we can see it. It drops us just outside Salo in southwestern Finland. If we take a look at the troop tree, what I've done here is it's a small 4-man troop tree, starting with the conscript and then going through the normal irregular ranks, so an irregular, a light infantry, and a ranger. The ranger is pretty well armoured. They've got kind of the standard infantry coat and a Jaeger rifle, so they're one of the stronger irregular units out there. What I've also done, because Finland was an occupied territory, occupied by the Swedish, and they also had dedicated Finnic regiments, what I've done is I've made it so that the Finnish conscripts can also upgrade into the regular Swedish line. So this becomes another feeder into the full Swedish tree. So I think this kind of makes sense given the status of Finland at the time. So next up are new scenes for both field battles and for castles. So for the field battles, I've been going through the custom battle scenes, which are not in the vanilla game, and looking to find ones generally where they're flat and open. So trying to avoid heavily forested or deep ravines or anything like that, or if they are elevated on both sides, so that it's beneficial for the artillery. Then with the castles, so you may have noticed there was literally only one castle scene for pretty much everywhere in Europe, which kind of sucked. So what I've done is I've gone through all the vanilla scenes, including the hidden ones, and I've tried to match them up as best as possible with a real life counterpart. And the result is, a lot of new variations. So we've got this one now. We've got this one. We've got this one here. In fact, here's all of them. I've added all of these. So we've got a lot of new castle scene variations, which is going to make sieges a lot different and a lot more exciting than what they have been. So next up are the changes to the UI, the new icons, and also formations. So once I figured out how to do this, I've kind of started changing as many things as I can. But you can see we've now got new icons for pikemen and grenadiers, which are infantry. The ranged units have a musket or a rifle, cavalry, officers, and then the combined units. The other thing is that pikemen and grenadiers are now tagged as infantry. The reason I changed this is because despite what I set the unit up as, if they have a gun, it automatically puts them in a ranged formation, and if they don't have a gun, it automatically puts them in an infantry formation. So I've changed the unit's default formation to reflect that. What this means is that when you deploy cannons, they'll go in front of your ranged units, like you can see here. But I think this is okay, because when I started looking into historical formations, that's actually how they did it. They'd have their engineers and artillery units in there with or just in front of their main infantry lines. So this actually makes a lot more sense. You can also see I've changed the icons for the enemy formations as well, so you can quickly and easily see if they're infantry or cavalry units, etc. Moving into the traits screen now, and finally figured out how to change the icons here as well as rename them. Thanks to Sandypan for the code change here. So weapons are no longer crossbows; they are now firearms. I haven't gone through and changed all the perks yet, since that'll be a much bigger job, but I think this will be enough. Everyone will get the idea for now. Last thing to highlight here, just to show that these icon changes are reflected pretty much everywhere. I haven't figured out how to change the ones at the top yet. I'm surprised it didn't change already, but yeah, in most places in the party screen, recruitment, etc., you will see the new formation icons reflected. So on to the new sound effects now, starting with artillery. So these are changed both on the campaign map and within battles as well. Basically just a few variations of different cannon shots. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Those are all real cannon sounds that I've sourced. Moving on to the firearms now.
Cavalry! Dismount!
So yeah, we can see a lot of different variations there, which of course, within in a large army, they're not all going to have the same weapons, and based on their location, it should sound pretty different. Some of the new drums. So I've added 4 or 5 different drum variations now as the background music during a battle, and this is without any sort of pipe or fife as well, just the drums on their own. And the last one, just another example of the new cannon sounds, but this time in a battle. So yeah, all in all, should add new level of realism and immersion for each of these different parts of the game. Okay, last thing now, we'll just highlight a couple of the fixes. In particular, the armours. So we're looking here at the old officer coat on the left and the re-implemented version of the right. Pretty drastic improvement, I think. And I've done this for quite a few armours. I've re-rigged, redone the textures, everything. So looking at the officer coat here and the bot forts, these used to clip pretty badly, but they've improved a lot now. There's really too many fixes to list out, so I'll just mention a couple here. But the big things, the broken village icons on the map. A lot of armours have had their textures fixed, particularly the specular maps. So this is why some armours were not showing up correctly for their culture. But you'll notice in this shot here, the red coats are now red. So all cultural armours now look correct. Wanderer strings, vanilla armours showing up, a whole bunch of stuff. So I think we're once again reaching a new level of polish and immersion with this update. So that's it for this video. This will probably be the last update before the DLC comes out, the last update for either mod before the DLC comes out. So a good month and a half of of solid game time with the mods in their current state. So as always, keen to get feedback in the comments. Check out my video as well that I've linked for custom battles. I'd love to see some other people putting together some big battles. Highlighting some of the new features and things like that. So yeah, check out that video and maybe give that a go as well. All right, see you next time.